what's up, everybody? Welcome to Cornhole Gear Talk, presented by West Georgia Cornhole and Titan Bags. I'm your host, Ben, and I am with my co-host, Kendall.
What's going on, everyone?
And Joshua.
Howdy, howdy.
And today we have a very special guest with us that you'll be meeting here in just a moment. But today we wanted to dive into the Thrasher bag. And it's one of the most exciting bags that we have made. It was one of those that I never really anticipated how much people would love.
Oh, yeah, how much it's shaped into like being one of our big staples.
Yeah. Well, before we jump in, just a real quick note. We have a discount code right here. Mm-hmm. So you can use this code on the Titan Bags website to get 5% off your order.
Mm-hmm. Or if you want to shop on West Georgia Cornhole, you can also use code Geartalk.
Yeah, you can use that code to get you 5% off some X Factor boards or any set of bags that you want. And also, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube so you can stay up to date with the different episodes that we're coming out with. And also, you can follow us on Spotify. If you didn't know this, you can actually watch the episodes on Spotify as well.
That's cool.
So you got the audio and or the video. So, all right. Well, let's introduce our guest. With no further ado, I wanted to say hello to reigning world champ, Mr. Jordan Power.
What's going on, guys?
Well, welcome to the show. We are glad to have you on, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just waiting to go throw actually later tonight, but through yesterday and throwing leading up to conference this weekend. So conference and then Canada and then the first national. So just trying to gear up and get as ready as possible for these events.
Oh, venturing out to Canada?
Yeah, I went there last year. I won singles and doubles, so I'm going to try to go do it again.
Oh, hell
Get the repeat.
Yeah.
What's the cornhole scene like in Canada?
It's really nice out there. It's more, I would say, more friendly than the U.S. The people are way friendlier, and they're pretty nice to hang out with. Like, I hung out with a few of a little group of them outside. We all went to grab food. Like Bernie Pelosi, the guy that wears the black top hat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Him and there's a couple other Canadian guys like Brandon Brown and his wife Tracy and all them that pretty much showed us around Canada, and it was a good time. So looking forward to going back, trying to defend the titles. See what we can do.
Well, heck yeah. So let's talk about one thing real quick. So why is it that you wanted to do an episode on the Thrasher with us? What about the Thrasher do you gravitate towards?
For me, it's just a nice controlled bag. It's not too fast. And for me, the big difference is that the slow side and the fast side aren't terribly different. It's not like a 10 and a 2. Mm-hmm. So when I flip it over, I can just flip it over with confidence and still throw it as I usually would. Because sometimes you get people that are afraid to throw that slick side because it's so fast that might blow off the bag. But with these, it's a nice collect bag. It normally doesn't venture off the board. If you happen to miss your slide a little bit, it might just veer off to the right or left. But normally it stays right around the hole, even if you had to miss a little bit. And they're easier to bring back, I found out, than some bags. So using that to my advantage to get around bags and block and just do different things.
Now, did you play much with the Venoms at all before you jumped on throwing the Thrashers a good bit?
I did mess around with the Venoms. I threw the Venoms. I threw the Scavengers and the Prowlers. The Prowlers are most so me and Jay were going to throw those. Mm-hmm. So I started throwing those just for double purposes. But for me, it's mainly the Thrashers, Tyrants, and Scavengers so far for singles because it's a faster, hole-friendly bag that I can control and block and do everything I need to do with.
Nice. Josh.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
So if somebody is going out there to decide what kind of bags that they want and they're interested in the Thrasher bags, what would you say are some of the greatest advantages to this? And anybody can chime in, by the way.
Yeah, I would say definitely if it's somebody who is, looking into different bags, which I'm assuming means they don't know exactly what bag is perfect for them. If they are already kind of asking those questions, I feel like the Thrasher is a great starter bag. Just because, like Jordan mentioned, that having that 6 and then that 3, they're not that far apart to where I feel like you can really kind of practice your, your general shot, and you're not having to change a lot about your throw between the two sides. And so if you want to be more of a control player with a little bit more of a muddy board, then I feel like you can play around with that 3 side. But then if you want to just kind of go hole for hole and just slide in like you see a lot of other people doing, then you can play on that 6 side, and you have that kind of utility with the bag as compared to it being one extreme or the other. And then I feel like it also just has an overall great hand feel, which is a big thing for me. And so I feel like overall it's a fantastic starter bag.
That Thrasher it's very manipulative too. Mm-hmm. Like the Venom, we threw the Venom for a long time, and that bag, it's just a slow slide in the whole bag. You can do cut shots, that sort of shot with it, but that Thrasher, it's just, I think it's the template is slightly different than that Venom, and that sticky side paired with that 6 fast side, it just makes that bag act a little bit different. And that bag, like if somebody, I go to a blind draw and somebody just, straight slide bag player, me, I typically like a muddy board, I like to throw a roll shot, that's the bag I would recommend for us to throw, because if it's needed to, I can still roll that bag. It's one of the few carpet bags I can still roll really well and really consistently.
Would you consider it a carpet bag? I wouldn't. I don't know if I would.
No, that's what I was saying. It's the one non-carpet bag.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought you said carpet bag.
I may have.
You did. You did.
I didn't get my 5-minute vocal warm up. I told you I needed it.
I feel like it's like a high, like you can roll those pretty easily too, because I can't even roll that great. But when I'm at my local blind draws, like if there's a pile, I can definitely get to roll up and over the pile.
It's not one of those bags that you're going to throw a blocker and roll 3 bags, but in a situation where you would normally lay up, you actually have that option of throwing a roll with Thrasher.
I always like the option, because sometimes it's like an airmail can be risky too if you're dragging some. So if you just lay a nice roll on it and it just happens to stay on the board, it's like, all right, well, no harm done, but it's like, oh shoot, stole some points off you.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about the speeds of the Thrasher bag. It is a 3 and a 6. So it's kind of on the lower end, the more control end of the speed scale. Now you can make them move for sure, but if you're somebody like me that needs some comfort and safety, it's a great bag to start with, but it's also good in the hands of somebody like, Jordan here that we've got with us, who can really do some serious damage with them.
Oh, yeah. It's, like I said, it's a great bag for anyone. It's great for a slide shot player. It's great for a dirty board player, and it's also great for a beginner, and it's also great for a pro. I mean, it's just, there's really not anyone who's going to pick up that bag and not be able to make it work.
So there you go. End of episode.
No, I was going to add on to that, to where I feel like specifically that 3 side, as much as it does kind of vary between like a 3 or a 4, depending on the state of the boards. Like I feel like it does fluctuate depending on that. But overall, like even if you don't have a perfect throw, I feel like that 3 side is extremely predictable as to what's going to happen. You don't really have a lot of issues of it just accidentally bouncing left or right or kind of cutting into these bizarre directions, which is something I feel like whenever I first started playing, I had issues with a lot. So yeah.
Jordan, what are you laughing at?
Oh, my girlfriend was in the bag. She was cooking up some noodles, and she was making this funny face. So.
Some noodles would go hard right now.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Hey, so, Jordan, this is a little sidebar. Have you had a chance to throw around with the Talons at all yet?
I have, yeah. I've won quite a few tournaments with them, actually. I've won some local blind draws. I've actually placed second. We placed second in a regional doubles with them. So,
that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so like the I guess, mode for what they were designed for is a lot of movement. I mean, are you picking up on that when you're throwing those?
Yeah, and I like the fast side. The fast side's really easy to collect bags. Like, there's like push a whole pile in with that fast side, and it just goes like they don't kick off and deflect. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like they're more true, and they just stay. The slick side stays straight through, and that sticky side, man, you can get that thing to bounce.
Oh yeah.
If you're a roll bag player, that thing definitely will bounce for you, because we have a few guys that in my local leagues or local blind draws I'll hand to that can roll really well. And they're like, man, these things bounce really well. I'm like, yes, I don't know, they're really good at it. Sometimes like I threw at a pile. It was like a blocker, and it just flipped up and over. And I was like, oh, all right, well, that's
It
cool.
works.
It does. It does.
It's like when we had that episode on the Talon. It's like if I can do it,
Oh yeah.
anybody
Oh,
can
yeah.
do it.
Exactly.
But yeah, like the thing with the Talon bag specifically is that there kind of is a specific crowd
Yeah.
that it's made for. Whereas I feel like if we were going to do who the Thrasher bag is for and not for, there really isn't. Like,
yeah, it's a much wider audience for the Thrasher.
yeah, I would say if you're looking for insane velocity, it might not be the bag for you.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the southeast or another pretty humid part of the world. But really for everything else, like it's not the best roll bag on the planet. It's not the best slide through bag on the planet. It doesn't have the best speed, but it's kind of this one-stop shop of a bag.
Mm-hmm.
It can do everything. It might not do everything perfect, but it will do everything very, very well.
Yeah.
Which I think that lends to, like I said, it lends to many different players. That's a bag I keep in my arsenal just for when I go to blind draws, because I know whoever I'm playing with, they're gonna like that bag.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it is definitely yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I'm sorry, cut you off. That was another thing is like when you're playing with like beginners at blind draws, you can whip out them Talons, man. Just give it to them, and normally they'll work because that sticky side you can get it to just play true to like if they loft it in the air, it doesn't matter. It's not gonna like divvy too much left or right. Like it's gonna stay true. Or like I gave it in the hands of some beginners and they throw them better than they're like, oh man, where are these? Like, and then I'm like, hey, like right here. A lot of people, you know what? A lot of people actually like the numbers on the bags.
I
Yeah.
think
Like-
I don't see how that's just not a staple.
It's interesting because people are so torn. I feel like it's 50-50 with most people that I talk to, or the most people who I end up doing like designs for. I always have to ask, like, do you want the numbers? Do you not want the numbers? And I feel like some people love it, some people don't. I think it's great for especially going out to like blind draws and stuff, where if somebody doesn't know, being able to see those numbers and know just at a glance what side's better, or not better, but better for you in that situation.
Yeah.
I can see the reason people don't want it. Like if you're super familiar with a line of bags, you know what those numbers are. Yeah, like I mean, if I make me a custom set, most of the time I won't put the numbers on there. But when I was first getting into it, looking at all these new bags, I'm like, oh, what is this? I go up there, I grab it, I'm like, I'm gonna try this, and then it flies off the back because it's a 10, and I'm like, yeah, I need like a 5.
Yeah.
And then I'm having to dig through the internet on Facebook groups trying to figure out speeds. Like I don't see how it's not a staple.
Because that is one benefit I would say to the Thrasher is that I feel like that 3 side and then that 6 side really noticeable as to which side's the slow and which side's not, like just by hand feel.
Yeah.
But then something like the Devastator, I feel like it's beneficial to have that 6 and that 8. And as much as you can tell, there's a texture difference, but for someone who would be new, I feel like that would be extremely beneficial.
Yeah, so let's talk about the different kinds of times that you would want to have. You would want to pull the Thrashers out and play with them. So when would be a time that you guys would say, okay, this is not the right time to pull this bag out?
If the boards are playing super tacky and slow, then I'm probably not going to immediately go to the Thrasher. Mostly because I am a slow side player for the most part with all bags. I'm not really throwing Ravager Furies like that anymore. And so because I gravitate towards the slower side of bags, I feel like if it's super tacky, I'm probably going to avoid it just because I'm mostly a slide player.
Here's the weird thing. That's when I will go for them. Because I throw, I'm throwing
Well, yeah.
carpet.
Yeah, I'm saying you're rolling and cutting over stuff. I
I'm
just
throwing.
can't.
I'm typically throwing carpet. If they get so tacky that carpet's sticking, I'll switch to that Thrasher and I'll still be able to roll it. Because they're just dead stopping.
That's what I do too sometimes. Even when they're tacky, you just flip on that slick side and just let it rip. Like if you notice Cody at Florida, at that Winter Haven Open when he took second second overall, like he flipped on that slick side and was just putting them all in the hole like that. The boards weren't even sticky at all. They were just gliding straight up.
It was cutting straight through that tackiness.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Now, Jordan, I've got a question for you. I've wanted to ask you this for a good while now. So with you coming on board with Titan, what has it been like having so many options to pick from for your bags? Was it like an overwhelming thing? Was it an exciting thing?
Very exciting, but like I guess it would be like challenging to some if they're just joining like the team because you're trying to figure out what bag, but you literally have like 10 good options of bags. So you're like, all right, well, like I can win a tournament with the Scavengers, Thrashers, Venoms, Prowlers, like Talons. Like there's a lot of different bags. A lot of companies don't have that variety of like, oh look, like we have 2 good bags, but like you guys have like 10 good bags, so it's harder to pick and narrow down. That's what took me like a couple months. People like even the ACL like broadcasters were like, oh man, like what's going on with him? Like he's having a hard time. Like no, I'm trying to get adjusted to bags so that way when nationals come, like I know what bags I'm going to use for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm still going through that a little, but like I'm pretty sure like the Thrashers for singles and then Prowlers or Thrashers for doubles, depending on board speed. Me and Jay last year did a lot of changing at first, trying to figure out board speed. But then once we played like a national, we figured out the board speeds. We're like, all right, well, we'll throw these 2 bags, and then we just switch between those 2 sets.
So describe to us what the ideal conditions are and scenario is for you pulling out the Thrashers to throw with them at an event, and like what, like the decision making process behind that, like why.
So if I'm throwing them, and like you can tell kind of some days when the room's more humid or the boards are a little bit tackier, and then some days they're just too tacky for me to throw because I do loft it a little bit. Like I know I throw pretty hard, like lower, but I also loft it a little bit. And sometimes when you loft it, you may get the occasional like left to right kick. But I feel like with my Scavenger, like you don't get that because it's like a 5 and it's faster, or you flip on the 8. You can flip the Thrasher on the fast side too, but normally I'm more of like a sticky side thrower. Like when I throw, I like throwing the 3 side because to me it only benefits me if the bag stays in front of the hole. Like I don't mind playing the block and replace game because I feel like it messes up people. But I would say I avoid it like sometimes. Well, yeah, just when the boards are too tacky, because when they're slow, like the sticky side's perfect. I just loft it a little bit higher, I guess.
Now, as far as like what the actual bag properties are like, if you didn't know this, the slow side of the Thrasher is shared with the Venom, and the fast side of the Thrasher is the slow side of the Devastator. And we were talking about the weird psychology that's involved when you're playing cornhole, where if I'm throwing my Devastators, I almost always stay on that 6 side.
Yeah.
And then I will rarely flip it over to that 8, and just really depends if I have to make a really hard push or something like that. But when I've got the Thrashers in my hand, I'm staying on the 3, and it makes me nervous to flip over to the 6. And
Yeah.
I think so much of that has to do because I'm adjusted to that 3.
Yeah.
Does that ever happen to you, Jordan?
Sometimes, but not typically. Normally, when I flip over on that slick side, like it's to push a big pile because when I'm just pushing one bag, like I can push that alone on the sticky side. But like if I'm pushing a big pile, or like say there's like a bag here and a bag here, but like this bag's covering like this angle and I'm standing on the left, I need to get around it. I'll flip on the slick just to get around. But normally I just stay on that sticky side and just let it rip because on 75-80% of the conditions you play, that sticky side will play true to whatever boards you're about to play on.
What would you guys say are the main selling points for the Thrasher bag?
It's just like I've been preaching. It's good all around. But I think one of the biggest selling points is it's a slow bag, but it's still super hole friendly.
Yeah.
A lot of times you start getting into those slower speeds, those bags will tend to stick around the hole a little more. But that Thrasher, it'll melt into that hole.
It seems to for everybody else but me.
I'll say
Thrasher.
Go ahead, Jordan. You got it.
Oh, sorry. I'll say the Thrasher for me is more like a comfortability thing in my hand
Yep.
too. Like the bag feels good in your hand.
It does.
So like it's never, you feel some bags and you're like, man, this just doesn't feel right now. Like I need to grab a set of bags. I never feel that way at the Thrashers. Like in any conditions, I threw them outside at Spencer's last year with Joe, and I was like, dude, these bags are sick. Like what are? And then when I got approached, in the off season, and I approached Brandon, I was like, dude, this is perfect for me. Like I loved a lot of your guys' bags last year, throwing them around in tournaments when I could. So it just made sense.
Those bags that you threw with Joe at Spencer's, were those the bags that Bruce had broken in for everybody? Do you know?
I think they were blue sets. So we had 2 different sets because I think Joe had a set that was broken and like some beer or something got spilled in it.
Oh no.
Some kind of thing. So Joe was like running around like a madman trying to find some bags. And he found these other ones that felt so similar. We're like, dude, we're just gonna rock with these. I think they might have been Bruce's.
Yeah, those bags were awesome. So, I guess to kind of wrap things up a little bit here, if somebody is, looking for this good kind of consistent bag, the Thrasher, what would be some comparable things that are comparable choices that they could make if it was a little bit too slow for them? Like, what kind of bag would you say they would need to choose?
That Thrasher, it stays pretty slow. Of course, if you get lightning fast boards, it's going to play pretty fast. I mean, at that point, there's not much slower than it. You can go to that Prowler. If you get a Prowler good and broken in, it'll be a little bit slower. But after that, you're looking at a Dozer, which a lot of people don't like them. I love them. I threw mine last weekend again. Did decent with them. But after the Thrasher, I mean, that Venom they play almost identical on that slow side. And then Prowler, like I said, once you get them broke in, they will be a little bit slower.
Jordan, when are you going to break out the suede bags?
Might be a minute before you see that, bro. I got to throw a little harder. That's an Adam and Cody bag.
Yeah.
Hey, you got to throw a little harder.
So Cody was trying to get Adam to throw him.
Man, that probably felt like those bags back in the day when they used to throw their bags, man. They probably like all do it, so it feels good for them. But
oh yeah,
I'm a player. I came around when like Reynolds and Game Changers, like it was like I think the first hot bag was like Reynolds Pro Speeds or something.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a while.
That's what I did like a long time ago. So now the evolution of bags is crazy, man. You have some like I would say like the Devastator. You can put a Devastator in someone's hand and they can just loft it anywhere. Like generalization of the board, it's gonna go in the hole.
Yeah.
Like the thing's just go right in the hole. The thing is with me is I throw these bags so often that sometimes my bag just gets a little droopy and the feeling just to me just sometimes falls out my hand. I like a nice full bag, so the Thrashers and Prowlers and stuff like that, those are my kind of bags. But like you were talking about the Venoms, I think the Venoms are good when it's too slow. Like when it's too slow for the Thrashers, you break out the Venom, even though they share the same slow side, that fast side, when you need to push stuff, it'll be a lot. It's like I feel like it's a lot faster than.
Oh yeah. No, that 8 is scary on the Venom sometimes.
Yeah, you can throw your normal that same shot you'll throw with your slow side. You can throw it on the slick side, and it'll push straight through just about anything.
Mm-hmm. That's what I like to. I don't like having to rifle a bag in there. Like I like to know comfortably in my head, like, all right, I'm gonna flip on this slick side. I'm gonna do my normal throw. It's just gonna go in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Well, one last thing here. So we've got Bag and Bash coming up soon. Now, Jordan, you weren't at Bag and Bash last year, were you?
I was not. No.
Okay. So Bag and Bash is coming up. It's going to be Memorial Day weekend, and it's going to be a 2-day event. So it'll be Saturday and Sunday. So have you talked to like Steven at all or Tom or any of those guys about what their experience was like?
Yeah, they said they all loved Bag and Bash, and that was a really fun event. So that's actually been a event I've had scheduled, like I've had on my calendar for a while because I'm excited to get out there. When I came to Georgia to do everything, everyone was super chill and it was a good environment. So I'm excited to get back out for a whole weekend and hang out with you guys and hang out with the fans and supporters that come out, all the pros. Hey, why don't you come get a piece of the world champs one time?
Yes, sir.
Heck yeah. What's it been like, being a part of Team Titan?
Oh man, it's been great. Everyone like fast responses, especially like if you hit up anyone with any needs, like if you need anything ASAP, everyone's real fast to get back with you. And if one person doesn't answer, there will be another one that does. So
That's cool.
it's always been good.
What kind of goals you got for this season?
Season for me, this year is gonna be focused, I would say, on doubles a lot, but singles for me is gonna be like a top 15, top 20 goal. My first season when I came in was like top 30. I dropped down last season to like 60. That was just inconsistency within my throw and a little bit of the bag situation. This year, I feel like there won't be any of that, and I'm a way more confident player going into this season. Last season, I think it took a confidence down or two just playing singles, but this year I'm gaining it back. I just know if I stick to my game, I can do anything. So just got to believe in that and see what we can do. I want to get a shootout win this year. I got one my first year, and I'm really itching to get back and play for the big money. So shootout goal, that's the main goal of mine.
Well, heck yeah, man. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show with us. And Jordan approves of the Thrasher bags. So everybody go to the Titan website and grab you some Thrasher bags if you don't have any, because they really, truly are some incredible bags. And I know I was joking earlier about how mine don't fall in the hole, but honestly, that's not really true, because I can throw with the Thrasher bags pretty well. So, yeah, man, thanks for coming on the show. And, yeah, we'll see you next week.
Of course, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Peace.
Peace out.